Mic test, 1, 2, 3. We good, Leo? Check, check, check. Check, check, check. Mic 1, 2. Check. Check your level. Solid gold.
So we have okay. Was that Mike? Yeah, sure. You're solid gold, bro. You're solid gold.
Sean is here, just let him see.
Good morning. We are going to begin the press conference with statements from our superintendent and our chief of staff, and then we will be opening it up for comments. Right now, I'd like to invite Superintendent Aquino.
Good morning, everyone. Over the past few days and throughout the weekend,
our unwavering focus has been on guaranteeing the appropriate climate in our school buildings. Our paramount goal is and will always be to fulfill our commitment to our school community. To provide you with a succinct overview of the current status as of 10:30 this morning, let me share the bottom line. Today, we open all our schools except 2 campuses. The Zavala Elementary and Estrada Achievement Center experienced power outages due to this morning's storm and a lightning strike to a transformer, and CPS was working on restoration. As of right before this press conference, they continue to work on restoring power. Since power had not been restored by the time school buses needed to pick up students, we made a decision to close schools, those 2 schools, and notify their families and staff. This is nothing related with our capacity to provide heating. It was just power outage. If not for the city transformer issue, as of Sunday, all campuses had adequate climate control and student learning spaces. All issues that would interfere with student learning had either been resolved or mitigated. And we will continue to monitor all our campuses throughout the week. To restore our heating in preparation for today, we took the following action step. We deploy as many as 50 technicians a day, both staff and external entity. Every school had multiple visits and analysis. We procure and deployed portable climate control unit as part of our district-wide contingency plan. We kept in continuous contact with principals about their campus's readiness to open this morning. Principal communicated with their families and staff over the weekend, and so did we from central office. We monitor and prepare for today's stormy weather. Importantly, I want to recognize and share my deep gratitude to the many organizations that offer their assistance. I want to thank the following school districts: Northeast Side, Lackland ISD, Schertz Cibolo University ISD, and Alamo Heights ISD. I also want to thank the following businesses who support us throughout the weekend: TD Industry, and you can see their logo there, Brand, MTech, Gillette, Columbia Contracting, Maximum AC, and Mueller and Wilson. It is gratifying to see so many people across our city wanting to help our children. Now, I would like to introduce Tony Thompson, our Chief of Staff, who will guide you through the comprehensive steps taken to address the situation and provide more specific information on the current status. Tony?
Thank you, and good morning. As Dr. Aquino pointed out, I'm going to share some of the specific mitigating factors that contributed to the system failure, but I'm also going to talk about all of the steps that we put in place to be ready to open school today. So the heating system failure occurred across the district, and the effect was similar in each of our geographic areas. Problems this big have multiple causes, and we're asking a third party to conduct a thorough investigation to identify all causes that contributed to this failure. Our focus at this time is on ensuring that our campuses are operational and that our students and staff have conducive learning environments. And to that end, we're excited that, throughout the district today, we have 85% of our students in attendance, and that's great. On Wednesday, when we decided to close all schools for Thursday and Friday, 70% of the schools that were open had students in attendance, or 70% of our students were attending. And on Tuesday of last week, the first day of the inclement weather, 54%. So we know that parents and students were anxious to come back to school today. But here's some of the specific steps we took to prepare for today. Over the weekend, construction services, transportation, and child nutrition assisted with the delivery of climate-controlled units to campuses as part of our contingency plan. Whether they were all needed or not, we deployed about 1,100 out to the campuses so that they would be warm enough or cool enough to receive students. We implemented a support center for campuses to call in to report any issues or concerns at all, and those call systems have been open since 3 this morning. Our police department has been out monitoring traffic hotspots and roadway closures and power outages since early this morning. We learned of the power outages, as Dr. Aquino pointed out, at Estrada and Dezavala early this morning, and we're in regular communication with CPS until we determined or learned that they would not be able to reasonably give us assurance that the campuses would be ready at a particular time. Related to the storm, electricians reported to work at 3 a.m. this morning to be able to assist with any potential power outages, and roofing staff reported at 5 to assist with potential leaks. HVAC technicians and custodians reported to campuses at 3 a.m. to check systems and to take temperature readings in every single classroom. And we also have HVAC technicians assigned to each of our 7 comprehensive high schools so that they would be quickly deployed to campuses within those feeder patterns if there were any problems that occurred. Grounds crew arrived by 5 a.m. this morning so that they could mitigate any damages created by the storm and high winds. And both Child Nutrition Services and Transportation Department employees reported to work an hour earlier, so that they could make sure that transportation routes were ready and that we had the kitchen readiness that we needed to ensure that students would be served. At this time, we don't have firm costs for how much the system failure will cost the district. We're going to be assessing that over the next several days. And moving forward, we're going to apply for an attendance waiver for low attendance days from the state of Texas to certainly eliminate any financial impact that the absences would have a negative financial impact on the district. But still, districts are required to have 75,600 operational minutes, and this time will either need to be managed by recouping, some time through the use of bad weather days, or by extending the school day for 5 or 10 minutes, for a period of time, depending on the campus's schedule. Our campuses have different schedules, so that analysis is happening for each particular campus. And as soon as we have that information available, we will share that with families and with staff. We've also maintained communication with the Alliance, our partner that represents employee groups, to ensure that they understand what is happening and to also be a conduit for them to share any concerns that they're hearing, out in the field. So that's where we are right now. I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. Aquino, and then we'll be prepared to take any questions that you have.
Thank you, Ms. Thompson. Before we open the floor for your question, I would like to extend our deepest gratitude to the numerous contractor, city entities, and fellow school districts that collaborated with our staff to restore our heating system. It will be remiss of me not to acknowledge the incredible dedication of our school leaders, teachers, and support staff who consistently rise to meet any challenge on behalf of our children. Special recognition goes to our custodial, maintenance, and operations staff for their invaluable contributions. I visited 10 schools today, and one of them, the principals and the teachers, spend the weekend getting ready to welcome the family, every single family and student got a thank you bag with some treats and a nice card. That was consistent across all our schools, and our kids were excited to be in classrooms learning. I am also profoundly grateful to the San Antonio Alliance for being a dedicated partner throughout this process. Alejandra Lopez, their president, thank you for exemplifying how collaboration between labor and management can be truly a powerful partnership on behalf of our students. Your commitment and the commitment of who you represent has been instrumental in overcoming the challenges that we face and ensuring a positive impact on the education we provide. Lastly, I want to express my sincere thanks to our families and students for the grace that they have extended us during these challenging times. Your understanding and support have been crucial, and we truly appreciate it. To conclude, I think it is crucial to clarify that our HVAC system did not collapse overnight. Rather, the infrastructure has aged over time. This is a widespread issue. Like many districts, SAISD is facing the challenge of deferred maintenance due to being underfunded. In the spirit of transparency, last year I did increase the budget allocation to enhance building maintenance, and more could have been allocated except for the financial constraint our district and all districts in the state of Texas face. Educational leaders across the country find themselves in challenging situations. Superintendents shouldn't have to choose between appropriately compensating staff and focusing on building maintenance. Principals, too, shouldn't face the dilemma of whether to hire a social worker over a librarian. Unfortunately, this is the reality we are currently navigating. To address these issues in a more sustainable way, SAISD, as you well know, recently underwent the right-sizing of schools. During the right-sizing community meeting, I sounded the alarm that we could not continue investing in emptying buildings at the expense of the quality of education we provide our students. We were proactive, and as you know, we had some pushback against school closures. Let me emphasize this. With the existing funding structure, we cannot offer all that our students deserve and that they are entitled to. Difficult choices must be made, and the community needs to know that these choices have consequence. With 36 years in education, it's disheartening to me to see educators across the country constantly fighting for necessary funding to provide a high-quality education. I hope this situation serves as a wake-up call to our state, local, and national leaders to recognize and help us act upon a universal lack of funding for education. Our children deserve better, and it's time for action to ensure that we receive the education, funding, and resource needed for our students to thrive. And now, we will accept questions from the media, and I want to acknowledge that we are here supported by our president, board president, Christina Martinez, trustee Leticia Osuna, and trustee Ed Garza.
You said that all the problems had been either resolved or mitigated. There's also mention of 1,100 portable climate units. So does that mean that the boilers or the heating systems are not all fixed?
Yes. So we have actually technicians on site, as Tony mentioned. We actually have them also stationed at each of our comprehensive high school, and we're still working on some of our boiler system. So it's a fluid thing, but what I want to emphasize, all our students are in learning spaces that are comfortable.
How many schools still need repairs done?
Tony?
As of this morning, because again, this has been very fluid, we had 5 campuses that had rooms that were too warm. We had 3 campuses that had rooms that were too cold. And that's an improvement over last night. We had more than that last night, so it's very fluid. And again, we have the technicians deployed so that they can get back out there to get things back on track.
So is that 8 campuses total, or do those numbers overlap? Or
No, they don't overlap.
Okay, and I know we talked about the difference between schools and campuses before. Some of your campuses have multiple schools on them. So is it 8 schools or 8 campuses? more?
I believe it's 8 campuses, isn't it? It's 8 campuses.
Okay.
Not 8
8
facilities, 8 sites,
Eight schools?
8 sites.
Okay, gotcha. And those portable climate units, those are in all of your schools or just those 8?
No, we deployed them across the district because we didn't know exactly, we wanted to be prepared if things weren't heating or cooling appropriately this morning. So we have them deployed all over the school district unless the campuses told us by yesterday that they didn't need any.
And Superintendent, you had mentioned last week that there would be, accountability measures in a memo to staff members. Last week, you also mentioned you accepted the resignation of 2 top operations staff, a deputy superintendent and chief of operations. Have there been any other resignations or firings? And could you tell us, did you ask for their resignations?
So right now, we're focused on addressing the situation. And again, if any additional accountability measures are needed, they will be taken. But right now, we are just focused on making sure that all our schools were open to receive our kids.
You also talked about the lack of funding and spoke of deferred maintenance. So knowing that this infrastructure was aging, should the district have done more to prepare or been, I guess, more aware that this was a possibility that you have these widespread failures?
Should everybody have done more? So since 2019, we have not had an increase in our basic allotment, but inflation and our costs have increased. And we did, as I said, we increased the budget for our maintenance and operation, probably not enough, but at the same time, we are also facing multiple crises. We are facing a huge shortage of teachers and educators. That's why we also invested our limited resources into making sure that we compensate our staff, at the same time increase our operation maintenance. Any other?
Sir, do you have a price tag on the repairs? And if not, when will?
We don't yet because we're still conducting our analysis, but we hope to have that within a few days.
You also mentioned a third-party report. Who are you going to be hiring, and what is your timeline for that?
Our timeline is to get it established, to get it scheduled immediately. We already have an expert that's been working with us over the weekend to, help us evaluate, boots on the ground, help us evaluate what some of the problems are and to help mitigate those problems. So we hope to have a comprehensive assessment finished just as quickly as we can. Certainly may take a few weeks, but that's our intention.
Considering the scope of the issue that arose last week, should the district have seen this coming as a possibility?
Well, we have a number of complicated, factors that are contributing to this problem. One is the aging infrastructure. One is that we know that there was human error because some campuses were not programmed, to run appropriately. Last weekend when the bad weather, actually happened, and we know that we have other complexities to include operating 5 different climate control systems that should have been integrated. They've been added over time, and as a result, that has also created some challenges for, our HVAC department to monitor each of the systems that are impacted or that are aligned with those different climate control systems, and actually having other external groups, monitor that for us. So we know that we have those challenges that, should have been managed by now. And that's why we're going to conduct a thorough analysis so that we can ensure that things are in place to keep this from happening again.
I want to honor nuestra comunidad latina. I think, do you have any question o quiere que diga
Si podía dar un resumen.
un resumen?
Sí, por favor.
So, hoy abrimos todas nuestras escuelas con la excepción de 2 planteles escolares. La escuela primaria de Zavala y Estrada Achievement Center experimentaron cortes de energía debido a la tormenta de esta mañana y la caída de un rayo en un transformador. CPS, o la compañía de energía, está trabajando en la restauración. Antes de venir a esta rueda de prensa, nos comunicamos con CPS y todavía no habían restaurado la energía eléctrica en esos dos planteles escolares. Inmediatamente nos notificaron de eso, tomamos la decisión de cerrar esas dos escuelas y nos comunicamos con los padres y la familia. Si no fuera por el transformador de la ciudad que sufrió el rayo, a partir del domingo 21 de enero, todos nuestros planteles escolares tendrían espacios de aprendizaje estudiantil. Porque resolvimos todo nuestro problema o lo mitigamos, lo reducimos. Y estamos continuando monitoreando nuestras escuelas durante toda la semana. Para restaurar el sistema de calefacción en preparación para hoy, tomamos la siguiente medida. Desplegamos más de 50 técnicos al día, tanto propios de nuestro personal como entidades externas. Adquirimos y desplegamos unidades portátiles con clima controlado como parte de nuestro plan de contingencia. Nos mantuvimos en contacto directo, yo personalmente, con todos los directores sobre la preparación para abrir sus planteles escolares esta mañana. Los directores se comunicaron con sus familias y el personal durante el fin de semana. Monitoreamos y nos preparamos para el clima tormentoso que experimentamos hoy en la ciudad de San Antonio. Es importante que quiero reconocer y compartir mi profundo agradecimiento a las numerosas organizaciones que ofrecieron su ayuda. Fue una colaboración en la que muchos se unieron para ayudar a que nuestros alumnos regresaran a los salones de clase. Quiero agradecer a otros distritos escolares: Northeast, Lackland ISD, Short Cibolo, Universal City, Alamo Heights. También quiero agradecer a muchos de la industria que ven en la pantalla por ayudarnos en estos momentos de crisis. Es gratificante que tanta gente en nuestra ciudad quería ayudar a nuestros estudiantes. Quiero también agradecer profundamente a nuestros líderes escolares, a nuestro maestro personal de apoyo por siempre hacer lo que se necesite por nuestros alumnos. Y un gran agradecimiento a la Alianza de San Antonio, la organización que representa a todo nuestro personal, representada hoy aquí por Alejandra López, su presidenta. Ella y su organización han demostrado lo que se puede hacer con sindicatos y administración en beneficio de nuestros alumnos.
What did those other school districts do to help you?
They provided HVAC techs. They dispatched HVAC techs so that we had more and that we could send them to analyze and diagnose the situation in each of our schools.
And when you say a temperature in a room is too warm or too cold, what is the temperature standard that you aim for?
68 degrees to 72 during this time in the winter.
Estabas diciendo un poquito de los fondos y que de las reparaciones como tiempo que esto no fue algo de ayer.
Sí. También hay que enfatizar que esta situación no pasó en una noche o en un fin de semana. Este es resultado de tener edificios o planteles escolares bien viejos. Y además es la situación financiera en que nos encontramos en el estado de Texas, lo cual no solamente en el distrito SAISD, pero muchos distritos a través del estado no tienen los fondos necesarios para dar el propio mantenimiento a todos nuestros planteles. Quiero recordarle que desde el 2019 los fondos por estudiante no ha aumentado. Tenemos la misma cantidad que recibíamos en el 2019, hoy en el 2024, 5 años más tarde. Sin embargo, como toda la comunidad sabe, la vida está más cara debido a la inflación, y eso quiere decir que el poder adquisitivo del dólar de hoy no es el mismo en el 2019. Y creo que esto es una crisis que debe ser un llamado a acción a nuestros líderes locales, estatales y nacionales que tienen que priorizar la educación de nuestra nueva generación. El futuro de nuestra ciudad, de nuestro país, está en nuestros salones de clase. Como superintendente o como líder escolares, yo no debería estar en la posición de elegir si le doy mejor salario a nuestro querido maestro o invierto en un sistema de calefacción. Un director de una escuela no debería estar en la difícil posición de si contrata a un trabajador social o a un bibliotecario. Pero esa es la situación que no solamente yo, pero a través de todo el país, los superintendentes y líderes escolares. Yo tengo 36 años en educación y no creo que en mi vida antes de morirme, voy a ver en este país una ocasión en la cual nosotros, los educadores, no nos tenemos que hincar en nuestra rodilla para pedir que nos den los fondos necesarios para educar a nuestros increíbles alumnos.
You said that there are 1,100 climate-controlled units throughout the district. So that means that most of the repairs have not been done, right? Those 8 schools are just because the temporary. How many repairs still need to be done that aren't, like how many controlled unit, like how many buildings need to be repaired so that you don't need those temporary units anymore?
10%, as of last night, 10% of our campuses were in the green zone, which meant that they were pretty much up and running. They were functional. May have needed to make some adjustments for some classrooms, but by and large, they were okay. Then we had about another 50% that were in stages of readiness, and that's one of the main reasons we just wanted to have the climate control units out there so that they would be prepared to still function and serve students today. And then about last night, about 27%, still had some issues, to include boiler issues, and even that number has decreased today. So we know we still have some work to do, especially in the yellow schools. The red schools are being taken care of and addressed, but we know we still have some work to do in the yellow schools for long-term fixes. But we're going to keep these climate control units on these campuses or where needed, in the district and made available through March to get us through this period.
Units it's for a classroom. So that's why the number. So in some places we only have one or two classrooms. So that's why the number. But I want to emphasize, I visit 10 and I got a report from almost every school. You saw the kids engage in meaningful learning.
Right, like the important thing is making sure that kids are able to learn right now, but what I'm trying to figure out is like long-term scope, like how many systems really broke down. I know you said 70% of schools were too cold last week, so does that mean how many of that 70% have like boiler issues, how many were human error, and do you have that number yet?
We don't have that number yet. It's not a finite number yet because we're still conducting that analysis. For about a third of our schools last weekend, part of the problem was that they hadn't been reprogrammed. And that contributed to, the heating failure. So we're still analyzing that, and that'll be part of our final after-action report. But we do know, again, that we still have some problems because of aging systems and infrastructure that we'll continue to have to deal with, to include looking at integrating our different climate control systems.
And that's what I wanted to emphasize. One of the things, the lessons learned as we start thinking also about long-term solutions, we have 5 different control systems, which is really inefficient. A lot of the districts in the surrounding area only have one system. So you're probably asking, so why do we have 5 systems? It's tied to the fact that we do have aging infrastructure. So when we have old buildings, we needed to keep the systems that will work with the boiler or that HVAC system. Some of the most modern would not work, but it's something that we need to address. So we looked at making sure we're more efficient, making sure that we look at our aging infrastructure. As of Friday, we completed our facility conditions assessment done by an external organization, which will provide us by expert the lifespan of the building, all parts of the building, plumbing, HVAC, cooling, everything. Lo último que dije, una de las lecciones o varias de las lecciones que hemos aprendido durante esto para tener un plan a largo plazo de prevenir que esto vuelva a ocurrir es que descubrimos que tenemos 5 sistemas automatizados para que manejan nuestro sistema de calefacción. Y eso no es una manera eficiente de desarrollar o manejar el distrito. Seguro se preguntarán por qué tenemos 5 diferentes sistemas cuando muchos distritos en nuestra área tienen 1 o 2. La situación es dependiendo de que tenemos muchos edificios viejos y como tienen viejos sistemas no se puede poner un sistema más moderno, o sea que teníamos que mantener los sistemas antiguos mientras estamos modernizando los sistemas de calefacción. Esa es una de las cosas que hemos aprendido y vamos a estar trabajando en eso.
¿Y qué es la temperatura necesaria para funcionar? ¿Qué temperatura necesaria para funcionar las clases? ¿Qué temperatura?
El rango es de 68 grados a 72 grados Fahrenheit durante el invierno.
We're going to be taking the last questions. Any more questions?
How does the state reimbursement deal work? If the kids aren't in their chairs attendance-wise, the district doesn't get paid, and the district lost a week. So are y'all going to lose money?
You wanna?
We're actually going to ask the state for a waiver for the poor attendance days, and that would be Tuesday and Wednesday, because our attendance had dropped, I think it's 10%. If you drop more than 10% below, what your average daily attendance is, then the state will consider a waiver. And if they approve the waiver, grant the request, then it won't have a financial impact on the school district. As far as the 2 days that we closed across the district are concerned, we'll either, if necessary, make those up through dedicated bad weather days or inclement weather days that are on our instructional calendar, or we can make it up where it's needed by adding 5 or 10 more minutes a day to campuses that would run short, because we have a minimum of 75,600 minutes that need to be part of the operational calendar. So we have that analysis, and then in the next few weeks, we'll determine who needs to make up what, or we'll see if there are going to be other inclement weather days, because February is usually our most challenging month. And if necessary, we'll invoke those inclement weather days. But if not, the campuses that need to make up some time can add to their calendars. And we'll communicate that to parents and staff members as soon as we know.
So what Ms. Thompson is saying, we are not anticipating as of right now losing any funding for the days that we were closed or the days that we dismiss or have poor attendance, because we are applying for a waiver. And I've been in touch with our commissioner since last week, and he did say just submit the waivers and we will consider. So right now, we don't anticipate losing funding. Thank you very much.
That concludes our press conference. Thank you for coming.
Not much.